In this video, we're going to look at how to rationalize a complex fraction. So, starting with the idea of imaginary and complex numbers, where the square root of -1 equals your imaginary unit, we're going to take two complex numbers, a and b, and we're going to find out how to make this into a number, how to simplify this fraction into a number without a complex denominator. So, to do this, we have to look at complex conjugate. The complex conjugate is when we have a number, let's say it's x plus yi. This is our complex number. The complex conjugate, usually denoted with a little star, means we take the real part stays the same, and the imaginary part becomes negative. Yeah, you just change the sign on the imaginary part. That's all the conjugate does. Very simple. That's all there is to it. But how does it help us? Okay, first example. We have 2 plus 3i. Divide by 1, that's a 1 right there, minus 2i. How can we simplify this? Well, we're going to multiply this times the complex conjugate of the denominator. Now notice that any number divided by itself is 1, so we take the complex conjugate of the bottom number, the denominator, over itself. Well, let's see what that gives us. When we multiply a complex number, we want to multiply, some people call it FOIL. The first two numbers gives us 1 times 1, that's a 1. Next two numbers give us 1 plus 2, 2i. Negative I times 1 gives us minus 2i. And then minus 2i times 2i gives us positive 4. Now, let's take a look. Up here on top, we have 2. We have, let's do the two imaginaries. Gives us negative 6. We have 3i times 1, that gives us 3i. And we have 2 times 2i gives us 4i. You have 4 terms, always. Of course, this simplifies down quite a bit. This gives us 2 minus 4, that's 2 minus 6, gives us minus 4. 3i plus 4i plus 7i. Divide by. Bottom here, notice, when we multiply times the complex conjugate, the imaginary part cancels itself out. It's gone. What we're left with is 1 plus 4. Simply 5. In other words, our fraction, we had a complex fraction, complex number over a complex number. Now we just have a complex number divided by a real. Well, we can say this is minus 4 over 5 plus 7 over 5i. This is our answer. Let's do that again, just so we can make sure we understand what we're doing here. We want to multiply times the complex conjugate of the denominator over itself. So I'm going to take that number, our complex conjugate will be 2 minus 4i. 2 minus 4i. If we multiply out the bottom, we get 2 times 2 gives us 4. 4i times minus 4i, that's negative 16 plus times I squared. I squared is negative 1. That becomes positive 16. We have 4 times 2. 7i times negative 4i, that becomes a positive 28. 7i times 2, that's a positive 14i. And 4 times negative 4i becomes minus 16i. Let's simplify and reduce. We have 36. 36, and then the 14 minus 16 minus 2i. Divide by 4 plus 16, which is 20. Now, that will simplify down to 36 over 20, or it's 18 over 10, or 1.8. 2 divided by 20 is 0.1. So minus 0.1i. We have now taken a complex number divided by a complex number and turned it into a simpler, just a complex number. No division necessary at this point. Remember, it has to do with the complex conjugate of the denominator divided by itself. That's how we reduce our fraction.